Purchased a car either at or before 2006 and still owns that car?
Me? 2006? Yes.
Had you taken that
after?
money and bought a solar system, the solar system would have been paid for and would have been continuing to pay you every month.
We don't have to drive anywhere.
So that's fact number one. Fact number two is two solar panels walked into a dark bar in Houston.
Why Houston?
Why Houston?
And were never seen or heard from again. Okay. Two solar panels walked into a dark bar and looked around and said, well, this will never work. So we used
I did it.
This is a hard crank.
I put my fingers in it.
Oil.
So let's dispel
Tell my joke, Gil.
Tell your joke, which is never. No, that one. So let's dispel a couple of myths and some rumors real quick, because Brian had asked. I like to point people out who are important. I don't know that he is important.
No, I'm not.
Now he said that last year they had like 17, 18 days where
Cumulative. Without power.
Okay. If you put a solar system on your house, won't help. Unless you buy one of Johnny's with a battery backup system. So don't think that just because you put solar on your home and PG&E goes down, you are going to have power, because you're not. So that's a very specific design that we're very capable of doing. But when you look at the system that I have here, when PG&E goes down, I still can't flush my toilets.
I can't. I got a backup system.
She has a backup system.
Battery backup.
God, I hate those guys. But let's talk about, and we're only going to take just a couple of minutes. I invite you to come out and take a look at the meter and the solar panels. But people ask about, well, what does solar cost? Because that's really the issue. Well, it costs less than that car you bought in 2006. It's not giving you any money. So we'll start with that. But nowadays, what people generally are doing is a no-down lease. And what that means is nothing out of your pocket. What we ask you for is a signature on some documents. We put a solar array on your home, much like the one that I have over here, and it begins producing power. And you pay for that lease. And the aggregate cost between the lease payment and what the residual PG&E cost is probably less than you're paying right now. If you had a bill that was $200 a month, just notionally, we would put a system on there whose cost would be about $100 a month in lease cost. You'd have a residual PG&E bill of $40. So you'd have a $140 bill instead of a $200 bill. So that's kind of where we're at right now in the game. Now the system that I've got is what we call a prepaid lease. It's a very large system. So far I've not bought any power from PG&E. Don't know how long that'll go on, certainly in December and whatnot. My PG&E bill average for the year is about $300 a month, or was $300 a month. It's probably going to be about, right now it's zero. Well, it's not zero, it's $12 a month, because that's as low as you can get. Because PG&E is going to make you pay for administrative costs. So I'm going to pay $12 a month.
Is your house all electric?
No. I wished it was. I really wished it was. And that's another issue that we can talk about at a later date, is why would you want to do that? But I would love to do that. So the essential thing that you need to remember is solar is cheaper than what you're paying for right now. Doesn't require any money up front. Simply requires us the opportunity to come and run around on top of your roof, take some solar readings, making sure that you have the right exposure, and then we put a solar system on your home and you start paying less. It's a 20-year lease. The question gets to be, well, what happens in 20 years? Well, you have three options. You can tell them, take it off. Of course, PG&E at that point will be $500 a month. I don't think you want to do that. You can extend the lease for 5 years, or you can purchase the system. So you have those options. people say, well, I'm probably not going to live there for 20 years. You know, we live in our homes in California an average of 7.5 years. So what do we do when we sell our house? Oh, that's the great part. You now have a solar system on your home that makes your home much more attractive to a potential buyer. Because you can say, here's my PG&E bill, look at the place across the street and ask what their PG&E bill is. So you have an advantage in terms of selling your home.
Hey
So
Gil, can they assume
Sure.
the lease? Can they assume the lease?
Yeah.
How does the lease transfer
Pardon?
work? Is it transferable, the lease?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can transfer it to the new owner.
Is there an option though, if the other, I guess they would want it, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. If PG&E goes up 5% per year, a $100 bill in 5 years would be what? $200? And so you're going to go, well, we're going to go from zero, and you want a $200 PG&E bill? Okay. So what you would do, if you owned the system on your home, and the people said, I don't really want your solar system, you would buy it and move it to your new home. Cost you a couple of $1,000s to move it, but it would be well worth it.
How many hours of sunlight do you need? Like,
How many hours of sunlight do you need? You do need good sun exposure, which is why we come over to your house and run up on your roof
that's why I heard that.
and run around with our little computer and look at that, because the more sun you have, the better it works.
Right.
And we don't know that, you know, I can't tell you,
Right.
but here on my home here, it was actually on my dad's house, I have 98% sun efficiency most of the year. Well, we go up there with a little device called Solmetric, and it tells us how much sun you get by hour every month of the year. So and then what we do is we take that data away and we say, here's the solar system that we think makes some sense for you, and then we lay those side by side with your last year's PG&E bill. And we say, had you had to have this solar system, here's what your PG&E bill would have been, and here's what your lease payment would have been. And so you can see very clearly whether or not that's advantageous. So we don't sell solar, we just offer it. It's a lot easier.
So we made a sign-up sheet. If you're interested in a free site visit, just sign up, and we'll call you and make an appointment.
And I'm done with the lecture, but I'm here and I'll answer
You wanna do a
questions for the
tour?
rest of it. Yeah, everybody want to go see the panels and see the meters?
What's the ballpark cost if you paid for 20 years on the lease, and what would it take to buy it out at that point? Just on an average?
On an average system, on a 20-year lease, it's going to cost you, the most opportunistic time is about year 7, 8, 9. It's going to cost you about $5,000. So you could get into the lease, no down. You could run along paying less than you're paying PG&E right now. And in year 5, 6, or 7, if you wanted to, you could buy it for about $5,000. Now, you might want to take a look at that, because one of the advantages of the lease is the lease company is responsible for production and maintenance. So if anything goes wrong, they have to fix it.
That's $5,000 on top of what you've already paid monthly?
Yes.
For 7 years?
Yep.
What if there's new upgrades? What happens with that? Just pay for the new upgrades?
Don't have any answer to that, because
Right now, it's
there are no upgrades.
It's been pretty much the same technology for the last 30 years. It's just the modules get bigger, but you know,
Okay.
silicon is silicon, a waiver is a waiver.
So right now, the technology is just about where it is, and there it's not going to really get unless bigger.
Doesn't mean that in 50 years they might not come up with some secret sauce, but we don't know.
They already have the answer, they're just not sharing it.
The answer is tofu.
Yeah.
When I was in chemistry, I had no idea what they're talking about. I answered every test question with tofu. I figured someday it'll be right. It's going to be right. So anybody want to go see the solar system?